You can go higher too. Not so close, but higher. All right. Hi guys, it's John Quinones here in my office at ABC News with a bunch of our staff. Hi guys, say hi. Wave.
Hi.
These are the people who put this show on the air and make me look halfway decent. We have a very vibrant young team of What Would You Do staffers who come up with the ideas, who find the locations where we shoot. They're in charge of setting up with a hidden camera group all the cameras that are, of course, hidden away at restaurants and bars and parks and bowling alleys, wherever we're filming. This is my office. This is a real Emmy Award. How about this, huh? I've got 7 of these, but 4 stories that I did as a reporter here at ABC for 2020 and Primetime Live. Many of them real serious stories, but it's really funny. Despite all the awards that I've won, the one show that people recognize me for more than anything is What Would You Do? The show that's made it impossible for me to go to dinner anywhere without people asking, oh my God, John Quinones is here. What's going to happen in the restaurant? And I'm like, I'm just going to eat. I'm just here to grab a bite. The show is back tonight for the 10th season. And it's just amazing because when we started, we had no idea. I mean, we thought we'd run out of, scenario ideas, right? How many can you do? Well, here we are 10 years into it with like 500 scenarios that we've done and still going strong. And we get our ideas from everywhere. People send in ideas. We watch what's in the news. In fact, I think the time could never be better than it is for What Would You Do right now, given what we saw in that horrible mass shooting in Orlando. The tone and the tenor of politicians running for the highest office in this country can be so ugly that I think the show is needed to remind us that there's still a lot of good out there, a lot of good people. Tonight, what you'll see, we're doing a scenario, we're doing 5 different scenarios. One is at a pharmacy. What would you do if you're at a pharmacy and the pharmacist starts yelling out the medicine for all these ailments that people have? Something he should never do, of course, but embarrassing people, saying, "Hey, Mr. Jones, your Viagra medicine is here. Sally, your birth control pills are here. Your hemorrhoid medication." What would you do? Do you step up and call the manager, or do you challenge the pharmacist himself? That's a hilarious one, actually. We're doing one a little more serious. What would you do if you're at a pastry shop and a mother doesn't want to buy? She's got 2 daughters. One of them is skinny, one of them is a little overweight. And she keeps denying donuts to the overweight child, saying, "No, you can't afford it. You have a donut under your belly or around your belly. You can't do this." What would you do if you see a mother being so cruel to her daughter like that? What if you're at a grocery store and the bagger is a kid who has Down syndrome and he's doing the best he can to fill your groceries, but along comes a customer who is so impatient that doesn't want him to touch his food because he's so slow and he's calling him horrible names? Do you stand up for him or do you mind your own business? And finally, another funny one we have is you're at a grocery store and a mother is disciplining her kids the way other people discipline their pets, with a spray bottle, spraying water on their faces to quiet them down. If you see a mom doing this, who steps in and who steps away? And tonight you'll see some hilarious reactions. Not everyone criticized the mother, by the way. Some women walked in and said, "How do you do that? Where did you get that bottle?" I think I'm glad. Why didn't I think of that? They actually supported her, spraying her kids on the face. But we have some questions, and it's all about what you want to hear. So let me see what you're asking. Was the show started as a way to create hope, or was it just an experiment to test people? I think, to be honest, at the beginning, it was just an experiment to see how do people react on hidden camera to some of these concerns. The first one we did was about what would you do if you're at a park and a nanny who's supposed to be taking care of this child, right, for a family, is ignoring the little boy or little girl and listening to music on her earphones and texting and on FaceTime. Meanwhile, the child is running around and close to traffic. What would you do? That was the very first one we did. So I think at the beginning it was all about that, just to see how people reacted. Now, I think given again, what's happening with regard to hatred against gays and people based on their religion and interracial couples, I think it's taken on a sort of a new mission of its own. And we try not to criticize people. We present both sides. And I think that's what makes the show a success. We don't judge ourselves. We lay it out there as we see it, and we put on the air whatever we find that day. Nancy Nemeth Caracciolo wants to know, when is the show on? Well, it'll be on tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, and it'll be on throughout the summer for about 13 weeks, every Friday night. People ask me all the time, what's the funniest moment that you've captured on camera? And I think some of the funniest one is when people try to guess that it's the show, and they'll start asking, and they'll say, it's that show with that John Quinones guy, or the John Quinones show. One guy actually said, it's the show with George Lopez. I had to come out and tell him, no, I'm much better looking than George Lopez. I know George Lopez, by the way. Vika Gatoma, will Tracy be making any appearances? Tracy will never go away. I think she'll be here as long as I am. We've had her on the show for so many times. She's done hundreds of scenarios. We love her because she's not only a great actress, but she's able to deflect. When people think it's the show, she's able to say to them, no, it wouldn't be this. Would I be a waitress at this restaurant if I was a famous actress? So somehow she's able to deflect. And we just love the way she can turn it around. And just when we think no one's going to do anything or say anything, she amps it up. Tracy does, this actress in our show. No matter what role she's playing, she amps it up so that people react in a certain way, good or bad. Where has been your favorite place that you've taken the show on the road? I love going to Texas because I'm from San Antonio. I was born and raised there. So we've been to Texas 3 times. We've been to Amarillo, we've been to Dallas, we've been to San Antonio. So it's always fun to go there. But we also just came back from Atlanta, and on this season you're going to see an entire hour that we're doing the show in Atlanta because geography matters. When the reactions we get in New York, in the New York area, New Jersey, in Connecticut, sometimes are very different from the reactions we get in places like Oklahoma or Utah or Portland, Oregon. And by the way, we can't go to every state because certain states have laws against hidden camera filming. So the show, we can never do it in Florida or in California. And it's too bad because in January, we'd like to go to Florida, get out of here, but you can't always. It depends on what the state law says regarding hidden cameras and hidden microphones. Tina Thorson wants to know, have you ever been afraid of some reactions that are given by people? We're always on guard. As much fun as we have with the show sometimes, when it's a particularly serious issue, we have to be real careful that I go out and break the scene and stop the action and tell folks that it's a show when it's getting too heated. By the way, we do have a security person in plain clothes sitting in the middle of the action. Just in case I can't get out there fast enough, he will sound the alarm and say it's just a show. But of course, we're always worried. As much as we like to see people, speak up and speak out forcefully, we don't want anything to ever become physical. So, knock on wood, we've been able to stop it before it gets to that point. Brenda Maricini, I think, wants to know what safeguards are in place to protect the actors. And that's just it. We do have a security person who is always there, and he's been with the show since the beginning, who makes sure that nothing blows up before I get on the scene to break the scene. And I'm usually just a few feet away. It's very quick for me to get there. Some people want to know what is the what would you do moment that you're most proud of. Well, we've done so many. We did one on someone dating a Muslim boyfriend, a white girl with an American girl with a Muslim boyfriend. And we filmed all day, and then at the end of the day, along comes a Muslim woman with her kids, and she overhears the father being very racist against Muslims. And she was the one who said, excuse me. She bit her tongue for a while, but finally gave this beautiful, eloquent speech about how we should accept each other and what Muslims are all about. And she goes, my children are here and they're overhearing this and they're Muslim, and I want you to know and I want them to know that that's not what we're all about. We accept other people, and by the way, we're not a violent people. So that was, I think, one of the most, touching moments for me. Miles Morris wants to know, what situations featured on the show have personally affected you? I'm Hispanic, I'm Latino, I was born in San Antonio, Mexican American. And a lot of my family came to this country, illegally or undocumented for generations. And so stories that we do about that always touch me deeply. We did a scenario where we had Latino day laborers being denied service at a restaurant because they didn't speak English. And they're actors, of course, and so is the guy, the racist behind the counter. And he's saying awful things like, go back to Mexico. We're building a wall to keep you people out of here. And then I went in as one of the actors. So I posed as one of the Latino day laborers. I dressed down and then spoke only Spanish. And even though I thought I knew that this was a show, these actors were using rehearsed lines that we had fed them, it still cut through me like a knife. Because I could relate and I could understand where they were coming from. What else do we have? Do we have any more? Yes, we have lots more. But you want to just yell it out to me.
All right. How do you get ideas for each show?
How do we get ideas? Yeah. Well, we watch what's in the news. So often we'll play off of that. People on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram will send me ideas all the time. And we frequently use them. Yesterday, I got a tweet from a woman saying she's gay, she's lesbian. She's a gay woman who said, I'm a teenager. Why don't you do a scenario about a girl introducing her parents to her girlfriend? And we've never done that. We've done a lot of gay scenarios, but we've never done that particular one. So we get our ideas from viewers like yourselves, people on social media, what's in the news, and then my team here, about 25, mostly young folks who are very energetic and very creative, are also always tossing out ideas that they think we should be doing. And a lot of the ideas are mine, whatever I'm thinking about. Brian Wilkes wants to know, can you bring anti-bullying into a show? We've done many on bullying, but there's never enough because the issue is still there. In fact, all of the issues that we touch upon exist and happen. Yeah, sometimes we push it a little bit with our actors, right, to make it more obvious. But all of these situations happen in real life. It's just that they happen in the shadows. What we do and what would you do is we shine a light on it and sort of bring it into the light so people get a sense that it's out there. And it reminds us, this show, that despite all the progress that we've done on gay rights and on racism and discrimination and bullying, despite all the progress, and there's been great progress. Talk to a gay person about what it was like 30, 40 years ago. It was a different world. But despite all that, we still have some work to do. And that's the beauty of the show, is that it reminds us that we need to do some work. And it, of course, it warms your heart when you realize that there are so many good people out there willing to, sometimes at risk to themselves, step in and take a stand and help out a stranger. What processes does a scenario go through before the filming ever takes place? We talk about these ideas. We have to get them approved by the standards people at ABC and the lawyers at ABC. We don't just come up with these ideas and throw them on the air and go out and shoot them. We have to make sure that that it's legal and that it's real, and that we're not, intent on embarrassing anyone. So we have a lot of people go through that process of venting what we're going to shoot. And then our team goes out and looks for a place to film the particular segment. And it's often, some restaurant or some bar. Then that's weeks before when we find a place, and we have to have the permission, of course, of the owner of that restaurant, or that, the person who runs the park or the bowling alley, or wherever we're filming. We like to shoot at totally different places. And once we get permission, the hidden cameras are set up the night before, usually, I get there at a nice late time of 8 or 9 in the morning or 10, and we film all day. And then it takes weeks for our producers to look at all the material that we shot and pick out the best of it all, both sides, people who stepped in and people who didn't. And they write a script, I look over the script, I rewrite the script, we then record narration and edit it, and it can take a whole several weeks. Gina Medina Perales wants to know, what have you filmed that has made you feel the most uncomfortable? Wow. Oh man, every one of these at times feels like, are we pushing it? Or, are we making people feel, unduly upset? Anything that involves children is always scary and upsetting. We've done one where this pedophile is trying to pick up a young girl at a truck stop. Will anyone stop him? It's clear that he's a stranger. She needs a ride somewhere. He's saying, come with me, I got my truck outside, I'll take you. And boy, that was frightening as a father of a daughter myself, and obviously it connects with you. It makes you wonder, who's going to step in. And sometimes we go a long time before someone actually steps in. So I think those affect me more than anything else. Melissa Trent says, will there be a show that addresses how parents judge each other? No, we hadn't thought of that one. That's pretty good. You mean like parents criticizing each other, right? In front of their children, perhaps. That's, again, that's something that we will consider doing. Jerry Walter says, how about topics on animal abuse? Maybe doing a show on saving dogs from a hot car or abandoned. We've done the dog in a hot car scenario. I think we've done it a couple of times over the last 10 years. And it's just amazing the way people will come to the rescue of an animal, sometimes quicker than they would to an actual human being inside a hot car, a baby in a hot car. Animals are a big part of life in America and death, unfortunately. So people quickly respond. When we did it before, there were folks that were about to throw a brick through the window in this hot car to save the pup. And why not? I think we might do it again. A lot of these scenarios we'll redo, and we'll do them in a different place. If we did it in New York, maybe we'll take the show and try it in Utah or Oregon. All right, someone else wants to know, what is the casting process? We hold castings here every week, just about, sometimes a couple of times a week, where we have actors come in, and in New York, there's so many actors who are willing and looking for work. And sometimes we'll get hundreds of people who will try out for the role of the child who's getting berated, or the creepy guy at the bar who's putting powder in the girl's drink, or the teacher who's being overly attentive and actually sexual to one of her students. And they do an audition. And our producers, I don't get involved in this, our producers are the ones who decide, we're going to use this person or that person. And often it's 3 or 4 actors who are used in every single one of our scenarios. But it's a casting process, just like anything else, where we decide based on talent who will play the role. And, it's an open casting, so anyone can come and show up. The only problem is you have to be in New York, of course, because this is where we do most of it, unless we're traveling somewhere. And then we'll hold castings in Austin or San Antonio or Portland, wherever the show is being shot. How has the show changed over the years? Technology is so great. If you look at any of our old scenarios, the quality of the video is not nearly as good as it is now with high definition cameras. The cameras are smaller. We use GoPros all the time. In fact, every one of my crews, when we go out and break the scene, has a little GoPro on top. The quality is amazing. There we go. Donna Dold, has anyone caught on film not stepping in to help the actor victim and later contacted your show to express regret or state that to resolve to be more confident when they see this in the future? Yeah, that's happened, where people, sometimes we'll interview them afterward and they'll say, God, and you can see it. One of my favorite parts of filming the show is when we zoom in on hidden camera on people's faces, and you see the wheels turning. They're trying to decide whether to step in or not. And those who don't will often later tell me, yeah, I should have, and I learned a lesson, and maybe next time I will step in. One of the greatest compliments I've gotten was from folks who come up to me, and they've said it several times, and they'll say, the world would be a better place if we all thought John Quinones and his What Would You Do team was in the next room observing our behavior, because of course we would all be on our best behavior if we thought we were on hidden camera. So that happens sometimes when we break a scene, where we're doing one on what would you do if you're walking down the street and you see a person collapse, right? He could have fainted, or she. It could be a heart attack. And we did the scenario early in the morning, like at 8, right by a train station, where folks are in a hurry to get to work or to get to school. Now we have that added element of not only is someone in trouble, but you're in a hurry and you can't afford the time to stop. Who will stop to help a stranger? And we did it with a well-dressed businesswoman. People stepped in right away. When we did it with a homeless man who was holding a beer can in his hand, not so many. In fact, something like 88 people went by when a homeless man had collapsed on the ground and they stepped over him. No one stopped. And in the end, a person who did stop was another homeless woman who not only had nowhere to live herself, but she had just suffered a stroke. So she was walking along with a cane, and she stopped and helped this man. And later, we did it again, and another woman stopped who was like a businesswoman. And when we asked her, why did you do it? She says, because I watch your show, and I promised my kids that if I ever saw a situation like this, I would step in. So I think the show is having a bit of an impact. I hope it is. How do you choose your locations? Well, these guys would be better qualified to tell you, because they're the ones that go out there and look for these places. But they look for a place that's got a lot of traffic, where we'll have lots of people coming through, because we want to do the scenario over and over again, right? We might do it 12, 15 times during the course of a day. And the reason we use restaurants is because there's a big turnover, and diners especially, because people come in, eat quickly, and then they leave. So we'll break the scene, we do the scene on one target table, and then we ask those people to move to another table, and we do it again. We sit somebody else in, and we run the scenario again. So we look for someplace like that that's got a lot of traffic, good lighting, and where the owners are cooperative and excited about doing the show. And of course, what they get out of the show is that their place of business gets national publicity, because now it's being watched on ABC television, right? Haley Cross wants to know, is there anywhere you can go without being recognized or noticed? It's getting harder and harder, I got to tell you, Haley. Everywhere, on airplanes, flight attendants are always saying, like, John, you got to do a scenario on the airplane. When I go to restaurants, when I'm working out at the gym, anywhere I go, people will come up and say, first of all, they're very complimentary. Very few people have anything negative to say about the show. Again, I think because it's the ultimate reality show. A lot of the stuff you see on television that's so-called reality isn't really. I mean, people know the cameras are there, and sometimes they're acting for the cameras. Well, on What Would You Do, folks, except the actors, really have no idea. Those are the real stars of the show, everyday people who either step in or don't. They have no idea, right? That is what I get most of all. People, saying that they love the show and that it's made a difference in their lives. And what I love particularly is that families watch the show together. There'll be times when they sit on the couch, and maybe it's an issue that bring up on What Would You Do that they are hesitant to bring up, and we bring it up for them. And then after they watch the show, families can discuss this with their kids. Schools use our scenarios and our videos in teaching classes, everywhere from elementary school to universities and colleges. It's really taken off that way, and I'm glad it's having that kind of an impact. How large is the crew? Shah Mujahid wants to know. How large is the crew on a given shoot? I think we've got about 25 to 30 people. First, our team, and then the two crews that I work with who walk in with me, filming me. But then the company that does the hardest work behind the scenes and hiding those cameras, it's a company called TV Boy, and we love these guys because they do such a wonderful job of hiding the cameras and taking over the restaurant, really. So it's a team of about 30 people. Where can we go to view past episodes? Well, What Would You Do has its own YouTube channel. So you can just, watch. I'm sorry?
And A&E as well.
Of course, A&E. We're now on the air there. They're showing all our reruns. Online, you can see them. You just Google What Would You Do, and you'll see us all. And again, we have our own YouTube channel. It's, in fact, I'm impressed at how many young people watch the show. Many of them don't see it Friday night on television. They watch it online. How has the show affected you and how you interact with people? In a very positive way. I think I was always sensitive to certain issues like racism but now that I do the show, I'm always, wondering what message I'm sending by not paying attention and by not stepping in. Sometimes I worry, by the way, that it's someone trying to trick me and saying John Quinones didn't help. But seriously, it's affected me in a real positive way. I think I can't see a homeless person on the street without having to stop and at least talking to them about why they're in the situation they're at. If a child is being bullied, I'm the loudest one to come to the rescue. I mean, I'm not perfect, and there are times when I might not, but in fact, and we tell people, we never suggest that people become physically involved in a situation because it sometimes can be dangerous. So, but we all have cell phones now, right? We can all from a safe distance go and call 911 and call the authorities if you see something disturbing. Has anyone ever recognized your actors and noticed that it's a show and that they were acting? Yeah, they do from time to time. They'll be suspicious. They'll see someone like Tracy, who's on the show a lot, and they'll say, "You look very familiar. Are you on that show?" And again, the great thing about her is she's able to deflect and say, "No, are you kidding? I wouldn't be on working as a waitress if I was an actress." She says to these folks, and somehow she's able to get over it. But there have been very few times when they've said, "I knew it was her, and I knew it was your show." Very few times. And again, I think it's a testament to how good our actors are, that they're not recognized more often. And we try to mix it up. We often use brand new actors that no one has seen before. And the situations are so disturbing that folks sometimes don't want to take a chance. They don't want to not step in thinking it was a show and maybe it was for real, right? Okay, Maddie Morgan wants to know, how many times do you run a scenario a day? About, 10 or 15 times, depending on how easy it is. If it's a complicated scenario where it takes time to develop, then we're going to do fewer of them because, it takes time to develop. But if it's a very quick thing, well, people will either react or not. We can do a whole bunch of them. Also depends on how much traffic we're getting in that particular place of business that day. If not enough people are coming through, then we're in trouble. And there have been times when it's like watching paint dry, waiting for folks to show up. But most of the time it's 10 to 15 times. We'll do it over and over again. We spend the whole day filming a particular scenario. When we started with the show, we used to do 2 days. We would do the same thing at the same restaurant for 2 days. And that was just a little too much. Okay, this woman wants to know how much footage ends up on the cutting room floor. A lot, would you say? Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
the best stuff.
Yeah, because most people don't want to get involved. Most of us, when we witness something, I would say maybe 60% just want to keep on walking and don't want to get involved. So what we will use some of those, and we will certainly make the point that this person thought, it wasn't real. This person thought it wasn't a big enough deal. This person was in a hurry. But, we can't use all of them. So a lot of them wind up on the cutting room floor. And by the way, if people don't sign a release, we won't show their faces or on camera because it's our policy at ABC not to embarrass anyone. If folks don't really want to be on television, then we won't put them on. We did a scenario where we had a lawyer buy marijuana in Portland, Oregon for an underage teen. And, not knowing that it was on hidden camera. So when I confronted him, he said, "John, you can't put me on the air." You know, the person would have been disbarred, right? And we're not in the business of capitalizing on something that's really good like that for our, for our purposes, and then having them deal with repercussions. Many times we'll be at a bar filming a couple at the bar. They do something beautiful. They'll help the drunk guy take the keys away from him. And I'll come out to this couple and I said, you guys, I'll tell them, you guys were amazing. What great heroes you are. Just sign a release. And they're like, no, John, we can't. I say, why? Why not? You did the right thing. And they'll say, well, because I'm not married to her and she's not married to me, and we're married to someone else, and we'd be in real trouble if you put us on the air. So obviously we don't do that. We won't put them on the air. We want to send our support to the folks in Orlando who are still dealing with the awful repercussions of that horrific hate crime, and there's no other way to describe it, whether it was hate against Americans or hate against gays and lesbians or LGBT community. It was horrific, and I hope that this show kind of shines a light again on those issues, and I hope we don't never tire of doing issues that deal with gays and lesbians and Hispanics and Muslims, because we need to keep the conversation going, and so our hearts go out to all those families as they continue to deal with the aftermath of all that. That's it for tonight. For today, I want you to watch the show tonight. It'll be on at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, and then it'll be on for the rest of the summer. So again, whenever you see something disturbing and something in that little voice in the back of your head says, do something, remember the words of Martin Luther King, who once said, our lives begin to end the moment we stay silent about things that matter. So whatever way you choose to sound the alarm, you don't have to become physically involved. Do something that'll raise your voice and that'll end any kind of abuse or injustice. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later tonight.